Salam Bacha, I think this is running already. Hi! Salam Bacha, that caught me completely off guard. I am still trying to figure out what's happening with Streamlabs. That's the whole thing. But Salam Bacha, Hosh Omadid, and welcome to this new reading aloud session for the Book of Kings. I am going to be your host. My name is Plumas, and welcome to this Twitch channel, Las Plumas de Simor. How are you? In this beautiful afternoon. Salam Pichu, salam no soy Ros, and salam Umberto. I'm really happy for you all being here because this means I'm not going to experience this, let's say it that way. I'm not going to experience this alone, and that's always something nice. I like to be accompanied when my heart is completely destroyed and turned into pieces. I think I've made not spoilers, but at least solid warnings for what's coming and what we can expect of these reading. However, I am pretty sure that if any of you was curious at any given point and you googled Prince Savage, you found out. So beware of a lot of tears incoming. In fact, I was thinking I was thinking before that I don't think I've ever cried live in English over here. The only time I cried was reading the Book of Kings. Duh, of course. But it was in Spanish. And I think this might be because despite what a lot of you lovely Bacha may think, I am not, or at least I do not consider myself to be a bilingual person because I wasn't brought up with English as my first language. It was not a coexistence between Spanish and English. Nay. I learned English, true, from a very young age. I started learning English when I was 9, I think. But it was never part of my upbringing. So that's the reason why I don't think I'm a bilingual person. And also, I believe it the reason for me not to get that emotional when I'm reading in English, because it's not my mother tongue. I haven't not created any emotional tie with it, if that makes any sense. You multilingual or multi-spoken people out there perhaps can relate, or perhaps you cannot. Yet, That's my experience, at least. What is that, Umberto? Salam, Sahra, Hubi. Umberto asks, so what I'm hearing is that everything is going to be fine. Absolutely. Absolutely, Azizam. I don't know for who, but definitely everything's going to be fine. And, as fine as it could ever be. Let me to warn you from the beginning, this is going to be a long reading session because I want to finish the part today. Last one was also a very long one, but you really seem to enjoy it in a very twisted way, because if you enjoyed that session, we need to talk. Yet I want to finish the narrative arc we are currently at, and that's going to take longer than usual. I know that you normally used to me reading like 60 minutes or so, roughly an hour, but I think solidly that we're going to reach the hour half. If you need to leave at any given point, you can pause this if you're listening to it on Spotify, on YouTube, or if you need to leave and you are live here with me on Twitch, that is okay. I completely understand. And remember that there's access to all the readings on YouTube and Spotify and iBooks and so and so. Okay, so last time we were reading that there was a situation, meaning that Garzivos had awoken this evil nature inside of the king of Turan, who is Afrasiab, and now they are both plotting against Sayavash. But Garzivos, being the snake he is, and deeply offended by Sayavash's behavior, has completely fooled the young prince, and he has him in the disbelief that Afrasiab has something against him. But that is not true. However, because Sayavash is, let us say it once again, a pan de Dios, meaning the best person ever, Because Seavash is a pan de Dios, he has believed the words of Garzibaz, and now the prince has entrusted Garzibaz with acting for him on his behalf before the king of Turan, in hope that the words of Garzibaz will send away all this resentment and evil that apparently has corrupted the king's heart. Azizam. That is going to be my favorite word for today. Azizam. So Seavash wrote a letter to Afrasiab. He summoned a scribe, and I start reading now. He summoned a scribe and dictated his letter. After invoking God and praising wisdom, which is tradition in ancient Iran, he addressed directly the king. He addressed Afrasiab, saying, "O wise, beneficent king, may you live forever. You summon me, and I am grateful, but you have summoned Farigis too, and she has been ill for some time. She hardly touches her food and has not the strength to walk. She keeps to her bed, and I sit beside her pillow. My heart is filled with anxiety, seeing her hovering between this world and the next. When her illness eases, she will be ready to serve you, but my worry for her well-being is the reason I cannot visit you." Why is Seavash saying this? Because Garzibaz, despite Seavash's attempts to convince Garzibaz to both visit the king, because there's one thing Seavash wants to do, right? Which is presenting himself personally before the king and sort things out, because he is certain that something is just not right. Something in this situation is off, and Seavash truly believes that if he was to walk before the king of Turan, everything would be sorted out. Salam, Serapi, salam. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for staying here with me. It's going to be alright. So Seavash is really convinced that were him to just talk to the king directly, this awful misunderstanding will be swept under the rug very soon. However, Garzibaz convinced him not to go, saying that presenting himself before the king would arise this rageous vengeance sentiment and put even Seavash in physical danger. So that's the reason why he makes up this excuse, and your daughter, who's really dear to you, is sick and we can't go. But the moment she feels better, we will definitely. And he had the letter sealed and handed it to Garzibaz, who asked for 3 of his fastest horses and rode day and night back to Afrasiab's palace. On the 4th day, he reached the court, and when the king saw him exhausted from the journey, he asked why he had hurried back so quickly. Also because, this is like a tennis match, and Garzibaz is the ball, meaning that he goes from side to side constantly. And Garzibaz replied, "When evil threatens, there's no time for delay. Seavash treated everyone with contempt. He didn't come out to meet me. He wouldn't listen to what I said. He didn't read your letter. He kept me standing before his throne. Letters were constantly coming to him from Iran, but the gates of his city were closed against me, and troops flocked him from Rome and China." Pause in here. Everything's a big fat lie, and if you have recently listened to the latest episode, you know exactly that it was Garzibaz, the one who said to Seavash, "Don't bother yourself, you're too important for coming to greet me." And this was a big thing. So big that is very disrespectful towards Garzibaz of you as host, meaning Seavash, not to greet your guest whatever the manner, which is not entirely true, because Seavash came out on foot, humbling himself before Garzibaz. Also, it is not true that Garzibaz did not sit at the court, which you see is another way of paying respect to someone that, first of all, is older than you. So you owe him something. And also, it's not true that the doors were closed to him. He was at the court. But Garzibaz cannot wait for the king to take action and go march against Seavash. So this is everything he is making up. And he continues his report saying, if you don't deal with him soon, your fist will close on wind and nothing more. He will make war on us and seize both Iran and Turan. And once he leads his men to Iran, who will dare attack him? I've told you what I've seen. Now suffer in the crisis you created. Little bit rough. Gardibas, you needn't to be this hurtful. But, I'm not giving all the credit to Gardibas because I am of the opinion that he just awoke a slumbering sentiment inside Afrasiab. I address him from the beginning as a psychopath, and I shall continue doing so because I think he is a psychopath in nature, and that just awoken. That has awoken. It's again. When Afrasiab heard the words of Gardibas, ancient wrongs revived in his mind. In his anger, he said nothing to Gardibas, but fire roared in his heart, and his head seemed filled with wind. That is a metaphor for all the demons and voices he's hearing. When it's very windy, you cannot really fathom what the sounds around you are like. So this is why Ferdowsi uses the wind. He ordered fifes, cymbals, trumpets, and Indian chimes to be sounded and led his army out from Gang. Once more he planted the tree of vengeance. While the deceitful Gardibas was straining in the stirrups on his journey home, Siavash made his way to the inner apartment of his palace. His face was pale and his body trembled. When Farigiz saw him, his wife, the daughter of Afrasiab, for those of you who don't remember who Farigiz is, she said, "My lion lord, what's made you lose your color like this?" And he answered, "My love, I have no honor left here in Turan. If Gardibas speaks truly, my life has come full circle." Queen Farigiz clutched wildly at her hair and clawed her rosy cheeks in her despair. Blood clogged her musky curls, tears stained her face. What is she doing? Why is she doing this? What is the meaning of these very hurtful gestures? Why is she inflicting physical pain to herself? Because this is a sign of mourning, meaning that Siavash is implying that he might die soon, and in despair, in suffering, Farigiz just plucks out her hair and scratches her face until she bleeds as a way of presenting how much pain she is enduring at the moment. Distractedly, she said, "Leave. Leave this place, but where in all the world will you be welcomed? Now quickly tell me what you plan to do. Your father rage excludes Iran. You say, China would shame you. Room's too far away. Your only refuge in the world is he who rules the sun and moon eternally. May years of pain destroy the scoundrel who corrupted the king's heart and slandered you." And Siavash said Gardibas will be arriving at Afrasiab's court about now. So I think this is beautiful because we rarely talk about the couples in the Shāh-nāmeh since the book is not focused around that. But I think Farigiz and Siavash, I was going to say Afrasiab, Farigiz and Siavash make a very good example of a loving couple because Farigiz, despite being a Turanian princess and supposedly being loyal to her father, what she wants at the very end of the day is the safety of her husband. Therefore, she suggests him rushedly that he should depart, run away from the place so no one could ever find him. And she thinks that the best choice would be going to Iran, back to Kaikavos's court, because China and Rome are just not, one's too far away and the other one's a foreign country where they don't really know if Siavash will be accepted. Yet, they don't know what to do. And I think it's very beautiful that they are trying to weather this storm together, at least from my perspective. And we don't see this very often in epic tales, at least not in these kind of military-oriented parts of the poem. And I like to highlight when nice characters come up. That's it. It's not just that. I mean, there's not much more to it. On the fourth night, meaning the fourth night when Garzibas arrived, he just arrived to the court of Afrasiab, Seavash slept in Farigi's arms. See, this is very cute. This is heartwarming. It's cozy. It's, despite everything going on, it is still nice. You know, it is heartwarming. Seavash slept in Farigi's arms. He began to tremble and started up from sleep, roaring like a maddened elephant. Beside him, his wife said, "My prince, what is it?" Then she called for tapers and for sandalwood and ambergris to be burned before him so he would feel better. And again she asked, "My king, what is it? What did you see in your dream?" And Seavash said to her, "Tell no one what I've dreamed. My love, my silver cypress tree." I love that one. My silver cypress tree. It's cute. And I saw an endless river, and on the further shore, a mountain of fire, and men with lances crowded the bank. The fire began to overwhelm my city, Sheabasgard. On the one side, there was water. On the other side, there was fire. And between them was Afrasiab mounted on an elephant. He saw me and frowned and blew on the fire to make it flare up. Farigiz at that moment said, "This can only have a good meaning. Sleep now for the rest of the night." But Seavash rose and called his troops to the palace courtyard. His dagger in his hand, he began to prepare for battle and sent out scouts to watch the road from Gang, meaning that he knows that Afrasiab is approaching. You know the role of dreams in the Shāh-nāmeh in epic literature generally, because I don't know about Mediterranean literature, but for certain in the Fertile Crescent, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Matter of Arata, Lugalbanda, and so many other examples, dreams are omens. Dreams are the way that, at least in the Shāh-nāmeh, well, and Mesopotamian literature as well, dreams are the way the higher deities have to communicate with humans, and in this case, it's God sending a message to, although cryptic, a little bit like, encrypted, but he is sending a message to Seavash, and Seavash interprets it perfectly, meaning that Afrasiab, all ready for battles, coming to your doorstep, and he's going to arrive very soon, so you'd better prepare for what is coming your way. And when 2 watches of the night had passed, one of the scouts galloped back from the plain, saying, "Afrasiab and a great horde of soldiers have appeared in the distance. They are hurrying this way." Of course they are. And allow me to take a sip of tea. I am using my Stormtrooper mug today because I need somewhere to collect my tears. That was not a proper order. I need to collect my tears somewhere. The words were there, but not the order. Dyslexia, na 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 na. Dyslexia, na 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 na. Okay, so when the scout informed Prince Seavash of the presence of the Turanian army, a courier then brought a message from Garzibas, and he said, "Save yourself. Nothing I said had any effect, and the fire sends out clouds of threatening smoke. Decide what you must do and where you should lead your army." Basically, everyone's telling Seavash to flee in order to escape Afrasiab. Still, Seavash did not suspect his behavior, believing all that he told him. Farigiz then said, "My wise king, don't think of me. Oh, they are very lovely. They really love each other. My wise king, don't think of me. Put no trust in Turan, but saddle and a swift horse and flee. You must stay alive, save your own head, and give no thought to anyone else. How beautiful is this, Butcher? She's so deeply in love with her husband that she only wants him to survive, no matter what. To hell with honor, to hell with respect, to hell with everything. She just wants her husband to survive. And I think that is very beautiful. Savage, however, doesn't consider fleeing at the moment and explained to Farigiz the dream he had, and he said, my dream was true, and the glory of my life darkens. My time on earth draws to its close, and only bitterness remains. But this is the heaven's way, bestowing now pleasure and now sorrow. If my palace reached to the stars, still the world's poison would have to be tasted. And if I lived for 1,200 years, still my resting place would be the dark earth. Okay, I don't want to alarm you, but if we've learned something from the Shāh-nāmeh is that when the characters kind of content themselves with the situation, you know, when they resign, when they express their resignation, saying that, well, we all have to die one day. The death does not make a distinction between poor and rich, between wicked and righteous. Our destiny is exactly the same, whether we live for 100, 1,000 or 10 years. If we know something, is that resignation in the Shāh-nāmeh is always an indicator of something. And I think Serapis already caught what that something is. Servash continues, and allow me to have my telenovela moment, because this is a very big plot twist, and I bet you did not see this coming. Farigiz is pregnant. Surprise! Farigiz is 5 months pregnant. And that's a whole thing. I mean, that adds more spice to this terrible fatality broth. Because yes, he says you are 5 months pregnant, Farigiz, and if the fruit maturing in your womb should grow to ripeness, you will be delivered of a splendid prince. What is he implying? We need to save this baby. Because I want to save my kid. And Sayavash continues, name him Kai Khosrow, and may he be a consolation for your sorrows. Soon, by Afraziab's command, my luck will sink to sleep. Though I am innocent, they will cut my head off, and my crown will be soaked in my vitals' blood. I will have no coffin, shroud, or grave, no mourners to lament my death. I shall lie like a stranger in the dirt, my head severed from my body, and by sword blow. The king's bodyguard will drag you naked through the streets, and Piran will come to beg from you, from your father. He will take you in your wretchedness to his castle. A warrior will come from Iran and lead you and your son secretly across the Oxus. Your son will be placed on the throne, and from the fish in the sea to the birds on the air, all creation will serve him. A huge army will come from Iran, intent on vengeance. The world will be filled with tumult. Armies will clash in the war of my revenge. The earth will groan from end to end in torment. And Kai Khosrow, my son, will throw the world into confusion. Stofini to ask, does Rostam have to have another adoptive son? Well, at least an adopted grandson. Thank you, Serapis. He says, of course he has mourners. Us. Cheers to that. And this is basically what he is foreseeing. Also, side note, this guy Khosrow is not the Sasanian Khosrow. That's another character. It's a common name, but I don't want you to think like, oh, are we already the Sasanians? We're not. We're far away from the Sasanians yet. But the name of this baby is going to be Kai Khosrow, and so that's it. Siavash knows, or at least feels very strongly, that he's soon going to be murdered in cold blood, because the thing is, he's not even gonna be killed in battle, with the honor of a warrior, or given a trial and then being executed in front of people. No, he's going to be murdered in cold blood, and he just foresaw that. He knows. Yes, exactly, Umberto. This is the one Sasanian Khosrow is named after. Yes, but we're not in the Sasanians yet. We have a lot of tears to shed until we reach the Sassanids. And after, this is a terrible omen. Basically, Siavash is saying that his death is going to ignite the highest, strongest, most raging fire ever to be burned in the known world, because the desire for vengeance is going to drive absolutely everyone mad again. Just when we thought the cycle of vengeance was broken and stopped between Iran and Turan, when we hoped that Siavash was going to be this character that ended the cycle. Just, this is the will of the heavens. And this, what I'm going to read to you, was Siavash's farewell to Farigiz. He said, "Dearest wife, I must leave. Harden your heart and bid farewell to ease and luxury." If you ask me, he could have been a little bit more loving, but this is the heat of the moment, I want to say. She scored her cheeks and tore out her hair, her heart filled with grief for her husband, her eyes with tears. The two clung to one another in their grief. Then, weeping and heartsick, Siavash left. Oh, it's coming. I'm feeling this pressure in the center of my chest. It started on my tummy, because my sadness always starts on my tummy. And it's slowly but steadily cooling up. And now it's at the center of my chest. There's this pressing feeling. More than pressing is oppressing feeling. And this is a hard part for me to read. So I just continue, because what I am about to share with you is one of my favorite moments in the entire Book of Kings, which is really something, given that we are talking about 60,000 verses long poem. But these remains on my top 5 moments from the whole narrative of the Book of Kings. Siavash went to the stables where his horses were kept and found Shabrang Bezad, who is the horse that always accompanied Siavash. Do you remember when Siavash had to perform this ordeal, this fire trial? Shabrang Bezad is the Arab horse he was mounting at the time, and Shabrang is his best friend and most loyal companion. So he went to find the black Shabrang Bezad. Shabrang means like the color of the night, and who on the battlefield outran the wind, lifting off his halter. Siavash wept, took Behtad's head in his arms and whispered to his ear, "Let no one near you until my son Kai Khosrow returns. He will replace your bridle. Then you must bid farewell to this stable and bear him out to war and vengeance." Oof. He hamstrung all the other horses, wild as a fire that burns through reeds. Then he and his warriors set out for Iran, their faces blinded with tears. To to me, this moment between Shabrang and Seavash is precious, is one of the greatest moments in the Book of Kings, and in my, of course, biased opinion, the best moments in Iranian literature, because animals in the Book of Kings are not just a compliment to the heroes. We've known Raksh for quite a while, Rostam's horse. Animals, and specifically horses, are characters as well. And Shabrang is partaking in this whole tragedy that is the narrative cycle of Siavash. And this is... Ooh, careful, Sohrab, no spoilers over here. But you know, and I know, we know. But maybe some Bachar don't know where we're heading, so... Shh, no spoilers. And... So, basically, these encounter that the poem said a few verses to share a moment between horse and rider. That really shakes my heart and itches my brain in the best possible way. I really, really like this, although it's tragic and definitely heartbreaking. I think it's yet beautiful, and I'm very happy that I got to share this with you. We shall wait until Kai Khosrow encounters Shabrang. Maybe something happens then. So they set off for Iran in an attempt to return into Seavash's father's court, meaning Kai Kavuz's court, seeking, I don't know what to say exactly, seeking sanctuary, seeking forgiveness, basically a way of escaping Turan and the terrible situation we are finding ourselves into. But after they had traveled half a parasang, they were confronted by the army of Turan. Basically, the army of Turan intercepted the Iranian army, and seeing them in their armor with their swords at ready, Seavash buckled on his breastplate and said to himself, Garzibas spoke the undeniable truth. Each side eyed the other's ranks. Before these, neither had felt any enmity for the other. Turan's cavalry held back out of fear for Seavash. Remember, he's still a very skilled warrior and the most powerful creature, at least in Turan at the moment. The Iranians drew up in battle order and prepared for bloodshed. All of them were ready to fight alongside Seavash. Neither delay nor reproaches would be of any use now. They said, if we are killed, we won't go down to the dust alone. They'll see what battle with the Iranians mean and not consider us contemptible. But Seavash stopped them, saying there is no sense to this. This battle has neither head nor tail to it. We would shame ourselves, and my gift to my father-in-law is to make war on him? But if the heavens decree that I shall be destroyed by evil, I have no strength. I have no desire to oppose God's will. As the wise have said, there is no point in striving against an evil fate. Then he called out to Afrasiab, screaming, great and glorious king, why have you come to me with your army ready for war? Why do you wish to kill me, though I am innocent? You will stir up the armies of our two kingdoms and fill the land with curses. Garzibas, not Afrasiab, Garzibas at that moment replied, you senseless fool. When has such talk ever been worth anything? If you're so innocent, why have you come before the king fully armed? A show of bows and shields is no way to welcome a monarch. Oh God. The sun rose as Garzibas spoke, And Afrasiab ordered his men to draw their swords and roar the war cry as if Judgment Day had come. He said, "Grasp your weapons and make these plain a sea of blood to float a ship on." So, you know what's coming, right? Have I mentioned how happy I am to have you by my side in this reading of the Book of Kings? There were 1,000 Iranian warriors there, all good fighting, but they were surrounded on all sides and slaughtered. And this is a massacre, Bashar. This is absolutely a bloodbath. There is no piety, there is no place for contention or restraining. No. The Turanians took out everything they were holding and slaughtered the Iranians and surrounded Siavash. The prince was wounded by arrows and lances and fell from his horse. As he lay in the dust, someone came to him. Do you remember the two warriors that Siavash humiliated in combat? One was Damur and the other one was Gorui. So it is Gorui who approached the Prince Siavash, and he wrenched his hands behind his back and bound them tight as stone. They set then a yoke on Siavash's shoulders and dragged him on foot, hemmed by soldiers, his face bleeding, towards his city, Shayavazgad. The prince had never seen such a day as this. Can we picture this for a moment? Siavash is severely wounded, and yet his hands are tied behind his back, and he has a yoke, and they are parading him, going back to his own house, to his home where all his subjects and family members are, to humiliate him, only for the sake of cold blood vengeance, because this is what it is. The Iranian army was not too much upon the Turanian army. Absolutely not. They were returning to Iran. Yet, the Turanians took any chance life presented before themselves. And now it is their turn to crush the spirit of the prince. And not only the prince, but this is a demonstration. This is a power move, Bachar. The Turanians are going to crush Siavash before everyone who is loyal to him, in order to warn them what would happen if they stayed loyal to Siavash. In other words, this is horrible. This is absolutely horrible. Afrasiab said, oh God. Afrasiab said, take him off the road to a stony place where no plants grow and cut off his head. Let his blood sink in the hot soil. Fear nothing and be quick about it. Do you remember, Bachar, that I insisted on calling this man a psychopath? Do you really believe that if he was just convinced by all the men's words, he would behave like this? If you have in front of you someone that supposedly is dear to you, as Siavash was, again, quote unquote, very dear to Afrasiab and blah blah blah, do you really think you would conduct yourself in this manner? Do you really think so? No, I don't think so. That is why I must insist that the psychopathic nature of Afrasiab has returned, because he just wants Siavash to die alone somewhere in the middle of the Rocky Mountains with no grave, no one to witness his passing, and basically he's just ripping all the honor. This is a prince we're talking about. We're talking about an Iranian prince, heir to the throne of the King of Kings, and this is how you're choosing to humiliate him. This is chaotic. and not in the funny way. This is pure chaos and pure evil, because that Azizam is your true nature. This is who Afrasiab really is, and believe me, you have not seen the top of what he can be. Just wait around for a wee bit more, and you shall see. When Afrasiab gave this order of taking Sevash out the road, the whole Turanian army cried out in one voice. Great king, they pleaded. What is the sin of Prince Sevash? Why would you kill someone for whom the very crown and throne will weep? In the days of prosperity, do not plant a tree whose fruit will be poison, because the soldiers just realized that his king is bloody serious about it. Bloody, no pun intended. Bloody serious about the situation. He is to murder Sevash, and they were not expecting that. Sure, it's fine conquering and giving Sevash a lesson and, exerting our military duty here and there, but we are talking about killing a person that has the right to reign, the right to the throne, because the royal fire is shining upon him. You basically are unaliving the right heir to the throne of the world, because this is how the heavens designated Sevash at birth. He would be the one to rule. And this is terrible. And here we're going to meet a character that is important for this part, who is Pilsom. Pilsom is, do you remember Piran? Piran is one of Afrasiab's generals, and he is among his eldest advisors. So Piran has a younger sibling. His name is Pilsom. And he is there because he's also in the military, he's also a soldier. Normally all the heroes are soldiers in the Shāh-nāmeh. This is a book from the 11th century, what were we expecting? But Pilsom is there, and the poem described him as a clear-sighted younger person. And he said to Afrasiab, "My lord, the fruit of this tree you're planting now will be pain and sorrow. The wise say that no one who acts circumspectly has little to regret. That reason soothes anger. That haste is the work of Ahriman, bringing guilt to the soul and pain to the body. There is no sense in cutting off a subject's head precipitately. Keep him in chains until time teaches you the best course. Act when wisdom's wind has touched your heart." Basically, Piran is saying if you want to keep him caged forever, do so, but everyone's fearing. Remember that the NPCs of the Shāh-nāmeh, the secondary characters, everyone can sense the power of fire. And because they can feel it, they also sense that if Sevash is to be murdered, something terrible will occur to them. They cannot explain why they know, yet they know. It is intrinsically in there. Is that a word in English? Intrinsically? It is in Spanish. And allow me to Google it for a moment. I'm very curious right now. See what I was saying? Not bilingual. I would know this word. Okay, so you can definitely say something similar. Yeah, it is actually a word. Intrinsically, inherently. Yeah, I like that one better. It's easier for me to pronounce. So inherently, they know of this. It's a sentiment. And Piran's younger brother, Pilsom, is really trying his best to hold Afrasiab, and he's just trying for him to take 5 and sleep on this. He's not saying, see this detail, he's not going against his king fully. He's not saying that he should not capture Sevash. He's not implying that he should leave the king to roam free. No. He's saying that definitely, if the prince is a threat, he should be caged and covered in chains, and put away in a dungeon somewhere. Yet, he's not to be murdered. He needs to stay alive. And now, Bacha, it starts a painful moment in which all characters, this is going to be a wrestling match between the people that want to maintain Saoirse living, and the people who want Saoirse to be murdered. It's an arm wrestling situation, and this is what we're going to live right now. This is what we're going to experience. Pilsom continues with his speech, saying, "A wise king does not sever a head that's won a crown." Remember this, Bacha, it's important. Now we're dealing with honor. With the honor royalty owes between themselves, given that Saoirse is a prince and Afrasiab is a king. There is this unspoken rules of respect that should be maintained between them when they interact. And this is a despicable act to just cut off the prince's head. Why? Why would you cut anyone's head? Let alone a princess. And Pilsom continues, "If you kill this innocent, if you kill this innocent, his father Kaikavus and Rostam, who brought him up, will seek revenge. Men like Gudars, Gorgin, Farhad, and Tuz, who are the Iranian heroes, will bind wardrooms on their elephants. The mammoth-bodied Giv, who despises all enemies, and Kavus' son, the other son, Faribors, a lion who never tires of battle, will ready themselves for war and vengeance. The plains will be thronged with warriors. Neither I nor any like me in this company will be a match for them. But Piran will be here at dawn. Wait, and hear his advice. Because if we learned anything about the poem, about the Turanians during the poems readings, is that Piran is the only person who can really get to the king's mind and even make him change his opinion on something. Remember that it was because of Piran that Saoirse was to live closer in Saoirse's, that Saoirse was not just exiled somewhere very far. It was everything because Piran's intervention. So now Pilsom, who is a good man but knows his limits, he's attempting to make the king wait just until his older brother comes, and he's sure that should the king listen to what Piran has to say, he would have a change of heart. Nevertheless, however, Garzibos stops Pilsom before he finishes speaking, saying, "Pay no attention, your majesty, to a young man prattle. Vultures feed on their warriors killed in battle. There's not a single Iranian warrior left standing. If you, Pilsom, are afraid of vengeance, this will be sufficient cause for Iran's enmity. You've done enough harm. Must you once again listen to raw advice from foolish men, your majesty? If this prince calls," meaning Saoirse, if Saoirse calls after what we just did, Garzibas's point is we are on board with this, and given the situation, shit already hit the fan. So we might as well continue until the very end, because now if this prince was to raise his voice from Rome and China, swordsmen and troops will flock to hear his orders. You have wounded the snake's head. Now you're afraid? And want to rob its body in brocade? Well, spare him if you wish, but I won't be a part of it. You've seen the last of me. In some dark cave, I will hide myself away and live in fear until my dying day." exclaims Gardiwas. You know what, Gardiwas, that is something you could do. Perfect. You know your place. Go do so. Now, please, Lord Fan, we will wait. As you leave. For good. But then, Gardiwas is supported by the two strongest warriors of the Turanian army, who are Damur and Gorui. Yes, the two same warriors that Sayevash very easily defeated, yet they are still the strongest warriors in Turan. And Damur and Gorui came forward, plausibly twisting their words, saying, "Don't worry, Your Majesty, about spilling Sayavash's blood. Delay is wrong when there is work to do. Take Gardiwaz's good advice and destroy our enemy. You set the trap and caught him. Do not hesitate now. You have the leader of the Iranians in your grip. Now break the hearts of those who oppose you. You have destroyed his army already. How do you think the Iranian king is going to look on you? If you had done nothing against him from the beginning, these could have been overlooked. But now it is better if he disappeared from the world entirely." So basically they're taking advice that Afrasiab rushed himself into this situation. But honestly, we're not hearing Afrasiab complain. Be minded of that. We are hearing a lot of people attempting to convince the king, "Oh my lord, don't do this, don't rush yourself, don't throw yourself into this." And then another bunch of people, "Yes, do it, my king, slay your enemy, free us from this evil snake, blah, blah, blah." But the king, not for a single moment, has at least expressed or shown or given a hint that he wants to reconsider his actions. The people who are trying to stop him, they're trying to stop him just because they want, not because Afrasiab has shown any sign of, or any desire of stopping, of thinking, maybe what I am doing is a tad wrong. Nay, he hasn't done that. The king, Afrasiab, who again gave the order to take Sayavash off into the wilderness and cut his throat and sever his head. It was him. It was not Gardiwas. It was not Amur. It was not Gorui. And why am I being so intense about this? Because I want you to believe me when I say that Afrasiab is a bloody psychopath. Because it's him all the time. No one's saying that. No one's suggesting this idea to him. It is his own doing. And this is the hill I will die on. Like, I will argue with you personally. If you attempt to convince me that Afrasiab is a good person. No. Afrasiab then replied, "I have seen no sin in Sayavash." "I have seen no sin in him. With the astrologers said that hardship will come because of him. But if I spill his blood, a whirlwind of vengeance will arise from Iran. I have brought evil on Turan and sorrow and pain on myself. To free him now is worse than killing him, and killing him is grief and agony to me. But neither wise nor evil men know what the heavens will bring." Yeah, for sure. Blame it all on the heavens. That is what a wise person would do. Also, allow me to remind you that while all these conversations are being taken, like while this conversation are taking place, Sayavash is there, yoke in his neck, bleeding by multiple wounds. In case you have forgotten, Farigis heard his father speaking, and when she heard this talk, came before the king, her cheeks blooded, her hair smeared with dust, because that is another way of showing you're in mourning, grasping a handful of dust and putting it either on your forehead or dusting your hair. That goes with clawing your cheeks and ripping your hair apart. She was wailing and trembling with pain and fear. She said, "Great king, father, Why would you make a widow of me? Why have you given your heart to lies? In your glory, you cannot see the misery before you. Don't cut off an innocent prince's head. The ruler of the sun and moon will not approve of this. Seavash abandoned Iran and with all the world to choose from, made his obeisances to you. He renounced his crown and throne and his father's goodwill for your sake, and he became your ally and support. What more do you want from him? Who has deceived you? And I am innocent. Do not mistreat me, for the world is fleeting, casting one into a pit of misery and raising another to glory, but both descend to the dark earth, finally. Do not listen to Garzivas's lies and so make yourself an emblem of evil throughout the world. You have heard what the Arab tyrant Zahak suffered at Fereydun's hands, and what the great King Manusher did to the evil Salm and Tur. In Kakabus's court live men like Rostam, who is contemptuous of Turan, and at whose name the world trembles. Gudars, of whom lions are terrified. Bahram and Zange, the son of Shabran. You are planting a tree whose leaves will bring blood and whose fruit is vengeance. The world's glory will darken and curse Afrasiab. You are ruining yourself, and you will have long years in which to remember my words, Father. You are not out hunting now. Seavash is not a beast a Jew is captured, bringing down some wild ass or deer. No, you are destroying a prince, and the throne and the crown will curse you. Do not cast the land of Turan to the winds, or make these an evil day that you will regret. Do you remember the pressing feeling at my chest? Oh, it is increasing its intensity. It is growing by the minute. You might find this as an exaggeration, but this part breaks my heart in a million pieces. Because after this beautiful speech by Farigiz, after the attempts of this woman who's defying his own father and king, because Farigiz is going against not just her father, she is going against the king of Turan himself in an attempt to protect her husband, who she loves. And she knows Seavash did nothing wrong and nothing definitely to deserve the mistreating he's being subject to. She is a brave woman, Bacha. Farigiz is one of the bravest women in the Shāh-nāmeh because she is daring to oppose an entire kingdom to protect both her child and the man she loves. I think that is very strong. We are not to see many female characters in the Shāh-nāmeh, but the ones that we highlight, I feel it's my job to say to you, to point to you where they are. And this is just... Farigiz is something else, but as I was saying, after all this beautiful speech from Farigiz, after these powerful words, after threatening even her father with the long years of solitude and resentment that are going to just fall before him, she finished speaking and she gazed at Seavash's face. I know the poem doesn't extend on this, but this is the face of her love, of the love of her life, of the father of her baby. And she cried, wailing and clawing her cheeks. And after everything she said, after everything everyone said, the king Afrasiab pitied her, but sealed up the eyes of wisdom and said, "Leave." get back to the palace. What do you know of what I mean to do? And then the guards of Turan, the soldiers of Turan, they took Farigis and locked her in a dark room deep in the palace. This is the true colors of Afrasiab. This is Afrasiab, raw and real, before all of you, which are for your entertainment. Garzivas looked at Gorui, who she cries and we cry with her. I know, this is heartbreaking. This is so hard for me to read. I know typically when I read these parts, I will ease the real pain that I'm suffering with some humor, because that is my coping mechanism. But it reaches a point in this particular part where humor or jokes, they just don't do it for me anymore, because okay, I'm just gonna carry on. Gardivas looked at Gorui, who turned his face aside and stepped before Seavash, abandoning all chivalry and shame. He grasped the prince by the hair and began to drag him away. Seavash cried out, "Great God, who rules our earthly state and destiny, bring forth a bow from me that will be like a shining sun to my people, who will seek revenge for my death and renew my ways in my own land." Pilsom followed him, his eyes awash with tears, his heart filled with sorrow. Seavash said to him, "Farewell. May fortune weave her threads with yours forever." How beautiful is this sentence, Bacha? May fortune weave her threads with yours forever. Convey my greetings to your brother, Piran. Tell him the world has changed. And I had hopes. I had all the hopes of Piran when I was like a willow tree bending before the wind of his advice. He told me that when my luck turned, he would be at my side with 100,000 infantry and cavalry, that he would be like a pasture for my foraging. But now that I am haled before Garzibaz, on foot, despised and wretched, I see no one here to befriend me or to weep for me. Because I don't know if you remember this, it was from a couple readings ago. Seavash had this feeling, this omen, that he was to be suffering at least very soon, and he wanted to leave. He wanted to leave and suffered tremendously. But Piran was with him at the time. And Piran was the one to convince him to stay and to shake off this feeling, this brooding he had in his heart, saying that now Turan was his home and Piran was really fond of Seavash. He really loved the prince and expressed how close he would be intentionally, that he shall never leave his side and he would be there to protect him, come what may. And fortunately, the moment has come for Piran to be there, and he is not. He's just not there. So Seavash is all alone, and he feels abandoned and and wronged in so many ways. But there is no more time for goodbyes or words. Just a moment, I'm going to take a sip. I'm not gonna cry, for sure, I'm not gonna cry, but this is difficult. Just know that this is difficult for me to read. Garzibaz and Gorui dragged Prince Savage away from the army and the city to a waste place on the plain. Gurui took the dagger from Gardiboz, and when they had reached the appointed place, they threw the prince's body to the ground. Knowing neither fear nor shame, they held a gold dish at his throat to catch the blood and severed the head of the silver cypress tree. The prince's head sank into endless sleep, never to wake. Gurui took the dish to the place that Afrasiab had ordered with the blood of Savage and emptied it. And the moment the red crimson blood of Savage touched the ground, a wind, a furious, raging wind rose up, and darkness obscured the sun and moon. People could not see one another's faces, and everybody cursed Gurui. I turned to right, I turned to left. In all the earth I see no signs of justice, the poem says. Sense or worth. A man does evil deeds, and all his days are filled with luck and universal prize. Another man is good in all he does, and he dies a wretched, broken man whom all despise. So, Bacha, Prince Savage, has just been murdered. And this is not just a character dying in the hands of his enemies. This is something much more powerful, because allow me to ease the pain with a literature/art history commentary. I've said, we talked about this in some other occasions, but the Shāh-nāmeh is a book that was carefully tailored and constructed in order to deliver a message. Therefore, the characters are not just characters, but they are archetypes. They represent the values and sentiments of the people at the time, and more particularly, Savage represented kindness. Because, allow me to say this, we're not going to find a better character in what rests of the Shāh-nāmeh. He was the representation of a pure heart. There's going to be kind characters, for sure. There's going to be good characters, definitely. But none of them are going to have this aura of kindness and purity that Savage carried around with him. Everyone who was near Savage aimed to be better. He even made Afrasiab the biggest psychopath in this book. He even softened the king's heart. And it was Savage's doing. It was Savage's presence. But now, because humanity is terrible at its core, humanity has murdered in cold blood kindness. This is the death of kindness in the Shāh-nāmeh. This is the death of good in the world. And this is among all the reasons why he is going to be so mourned and remembered. Because, we, humankind, we just killed kindness. We just killed goodness. And it was awful. The way Savage leaves the world, I cannot emphasize enough how terrible it is, because he is slaughtered like an animal. Again, I said this, sorry, I'm repeating myself, but he's not dying in combat. He's not facing a trial. No, he is taken apart to the side, and they bleed him out like you do with a prize after you come hunting. You do that with a deer, you do that with a wild onaga, with the lion, with the leopard, but you don't do that with a human being. So you are depriving the prince of his humanity and the honor that he is entitled to have, because he's not only just a human, he is the heir to the throne of Iran. So I hope my words and the sentiment I am transmitting are enough to express how awful is this situation. Yes, said Apis, I also hope the world burns in the next readings, because I am angry and I am upset and I am sad and I'm everything. And yes, Umberto, our poor boy, he deserved so much better. Yes, he did. That is the key sentence, I would say. He deserved better. And he didn't have it. Because it was taken from him. The right to a royal death, to an honorable death, was taken from him. And this is the worst part of the Shāh-nāmeh. The death of Sayyavash always gets me. I've read this part multiple times, honestly. And it's something I could not... Oof. Sorry. This is something I cannot just tread on lightly. Definitely not. It's very heavy in my heart, and because it's so unfair. It is so unfair because he never did anything wrong, and he was suffering from the moment he was born, and he ends like this just when all his life was starting to come together. He was going to be a dad. He had a loving wife. He had a city that was his heaven, and it's just so unfair. And I think that the poem delivers that very brilliantly. This is exactly the intention of Ferdowsi's hand, in his cruel writer's hand. This is exactly what he wants all of us to experience, the unfairness of the situation, this raging sentiment that weaves between pain and sadness to just anger, pure burning anger, because you see how this is unfair. You see how Sayyavash did not deserve this, and there was nothing to be done to stop this, because the world, Bachar, is very unfair. And this is just how things are. So now we are going to... yeah, I know. Umberto says, I'm hoping that Sayyavash will be properly avenged, but that won't bring him back. That is precisely the thing. Like, it's going to be a mess. This is going to start a very big, bloody mess, but this won't bring the character back. Sayyavash is gone for good. And we still are going to read... Well, I'm going to continue reading. And... But now Bachar learned that we are to learn how to live in a world without Sayyavash. Just wait until Rostam hears of this. Just saying. Solo digo. Sayyavash's palace, the moment the prince is murdered, resounded with lamentation. His slaves cut off their hair, and Farigis too cut her musky tresses and bound them about her waist and clawed at her cheeks' roses. Loudly she cursed her father Afrasiab. That's a good one, Umberto. Yes, Serapis, Sayyavash will live in our hearts and memories forever. I always picture Sayyavash in an alternative universe in which he's happy at Sayyavash God and just left alone with his family, and it doesn't matter where, Iran, Turan, it's not really important, but he's just safe, and because that's what he deserved, being happy and safe. Loudly, Farigis cut Afrasiab, and yeah, you still haven't seen the worst of Afrasiab. Do you still want me to convince you that he's a psychopath? Then hear this. When Afrasiab heard the curses and cries of his daughter, who is, of course, cagándose en sus muertos. I mean, she's not saying nice things about him. He just murdered her husband. What were you expecting? And but the moment he heard her cries, he ordered Gardibas to drag her into the streets and there to strip her and have her beaten so that she would miscarry the seed of Iran, saying, I want nothing to grow from Shāh-nāmeh's root, neither a tree, nor a bow, nor a leaf. I want no scion from him worthy of a crown or throne. He wants to do this to his own daughter, for crying out loud. His own daughter is to be beaten publicly when she's naked. How twisted is this? How crooked is this person's brain? I can't. And honestly, it's not, no. This is hard. One by one, the nobles of Afraziab's entourage condemned him, saying that no one had ever heard of a king or minister who had given such an order. Beat up publicly a naked pregnant woman. That is that is too much. Pilsom came weeping and heartsick to two Turanians, Lahok and Farshibard, and said, hell is better than Afraziab's realm, and this land will know no rest or peace now. We should go to Piran and seek help for this tormented woman. And they saddled 3 fine horses and hurried to Piran's castle, where they arrived covered in sweat and dust. They told him that Shāh-nāmeh had been dragged on foot, bound, and with a yoke placed about his neck, that he had been forced to the ground by Gorui with his face twisted up like a sheep's, while a basin was held to catch his blood, that his head had been severed, and that his body lay like a cypress tree felled in a meadow. They said that a heathen shepherd of the deserts would not slit a man's throat in such a way, that all the land mourned for Shāh-nāmeh, and that tears stood in all eyes like dew. Piran, upon hearing this, fell from his throne and fainted. And when he came to, he tore at his hair and clothes and heaped dust on his head. But Pilsom Pilsom did not allow him to sit on his sorrow, saying, hurry, pain is heaped upon pain. Farigiz will be killed. Gods have dragged her by her hair to the court. Don't turn your back on her distress. Piran then had 10 good horses brought from his stables, and in 2 days and nights the group arrived at Afraziab's court. They saw the gates thronged with wardens and executioners, and Farigiz dragged forward as if insensible, because she's just dealing with too much, by guards with drawn swords in their hands. The court was in a tumult, weeping and lamenting and condemning Afraziab, saying that he would have Farigiz hacked in two, that this horrific crime would utterly destroy his sovereignty, and that no one would ever call him king again. Piran rode forward like the wind, and everyone with any sense rejoiced. Farigiz saw him through her bloody tears. Oh my gosh, she's bleeding my eyes. And said, see what evil you have brought upon me. You have thrown me living into the fire. And she's saying this because remember that it was Piran who convinced Shāh-nāmeh to stay. Piran dismounted and tore at his clothes in grief. He told the guards crowded about the gates to delay carrying out their orders. Then, weeping and heartsore, he rushed before Afraziab and said, great king, live prosperously and wisely. Wisely. Ha, my ass. What evil has darkened your benevolence? What demon has gained power over you, destroying all shame before God in your soul? I'm gonna give you a clue. Piran Azizam, he was always like this. And I mean always, always. Anyway, Piran continues, by killing the sinless Shāh-nāmeh, You've thrown your own honor and glory in the dust. When this news reaches Iran, the court will go into mourning, and the nobles will lead a great army here intent on vengeance. The world was at peace, and God's ways prevailed, and now some demon has burst from hell and deceived the king's heart. Curses on the devil who perverted your heart. For long years you will regret this, living in pain and sorrow. And now that you have dealt with Shāh-nāmeh, you turn against your own child? But Farighis has no desire for glory or sovereignty. Don't make yourself a byword for cruelty by killing your pregnant daughter. You will be cursed throughout the world for as long as you live, and when you die, hell will be your home. If the king would brighten my soul, he will send her, Farighis, to my castle. And if you fear her child, wait until it's born. I will bring it to you, and then do to it whatever evil you wish. Afrasiab, remember that I told you that Piran was the only person in the world who could make the king change hearts. And he does. Again, he does. Afrasiab replied, "Do as you say. You have made me unwilling to shed her blood." Thanks. Heartened by this, Piran went to the gates, paid off the gods, and took Farighis away from the court and its lamentations. He brought her to Khotan, and then, when they arrived, he entrusted her to Golshar, his wife, saying, hide this lovely woman away, look after her. And days passed, and Farighis, whose glory lit the world, grew heavier. On a dark, moonless night, when birds and beasts were sleeping, Piran saw in a dream a candle lit from the sun. Shāh-nāmeh stood by the candle, a sword in his hand, crying out loud, "This is no time for rest. Rise from sleep. Learn how the world moves onward. A new day dawns, and new customs come. Tonight is the birth night of Kai Khosrow." Piran trembled in his sleep and woke. He rose Golshar and said, "Go to Farighis. I dreamed of Shāh-nāmeh, more splendid than the sun, who said to me, 'How long will you sleep? Rise and run to the feast of Kai Khosrow, who will rule the world.'" When Golshar reached Farighis, she saw that the princess had already born her son. She ran back lightheartedly, shouting the news to all the world, and said to Piran, "He is like the sun and moon together. Come and see the little marvel. See what God has created in his goodness. You will say, she's ready for a crown, or a helmet, or a battle." As soon as Piran saw the prince, he laughed. He laughed and scattered coins for him. His great stature seemed more fitting for a 1-year-old child than a newborn baby. Because you see how in the Shāh-nāmeh, typically, the heroes, or at least the prominent protagonists, they grow up insanely fast and are very different to basically every human creature in the world. And the baby is already big enough to be mistaken for a 1-year-old. But no, he's just been born. And gazing at the child, Piran wept for Shāh-nāmeh and cursed Afrasiab. To his nobles he said, "If I am killed for this, I will say it. I shall not let Afrasiab get his clutches on this child, even if he throws me to wild beasts." Because remember that Piran had promised Afrasiab that he would just deliver the baby to him to do whatever evil he likes. No, Not anymore. He's not going to allow any harm to come to this baby, who is basically all the legacy of Shāh-nāmeh that we have. At the time, the sun unsheathes its sword. As Afrasiab was waking up, Piran came hurrying in, and after the room was cleared, he approached the king and said, "Sun King, world conqueror, wise and versed in magic arts." Again, why are we referring to Afrasiab as wise? Is it a figure of speech? Is it out of custom? Why? Another subject, Piran says, was added to your rule last night. He seems a capable, intelligent child and is as fair to look on as the moon. If Tur could live again, he'd long to see him, for he resembles Fereydun. Oh, Fereydun, our Dragon King. I miss him. He resembles Fereydun in majesty and glory. No picture in a palace is as magnificent as this prince. In him the royal splendor is renewed. Now, distance evil thoughts from your mind. Mercy will become both your crown and your heart. And now, God themselves intervenes. Because there's very few moments in the Shāh-nāmeh in which God, I was going to say personally, but yeah, like God personally mixes themselves with the human shenanigans. This is one of these moments. If you remember, another one was when Simur was hunting for, prey for her offspring, and she saw Zal. Salam, Aquila, how are you? Thank you for coming. Oh, it's really nice having you here. You've come in a great moment because we've finished the heartbreaking part. Although I am crying on the inside, and perhaps when this is over and I am, switched off the camera and at the comfort of my own sofa, wrapped up in my blanket, I will shed my tears. But for now, I'm good. I was saying that when Simur saw Zal for the first time, God put the love of her mother in Simur's heart. That is of the moment when God has, made themselves present, as in really present, because God cleansed all hatred from the monarch's mind. He knew that Shāh-nāmeh had been maligned in his sight for him, tortured with pain and guilt, mourning his malice and the blood he spilled. No, now we are regretting things. Now, in fin. He said, "I've heard enough about this newcomer. Everyone talks about him. The land is full of disturbances because of him, and I remember what I was told, that from the mingled line of Tur and Kaikobad, a great king would be born. The world will turn to him, and all the cities of Turan will pay him homage. But let what must come. There's nothing to be gained by worry and grief. Don't keep him among your courtiers. Send him off to the shepherds and see that he doesn't know who he is or why he's here." He said whatever came into his head, thinking that this ancient world was young and malleable. Why is doing Afrasiab this thing? Because he knows by this omen, by this prophecy, that Prince Shāh-nāmeh was to produce an heir that would conquer the whole world. Remember that it's been said multiple times whenever addressing the recently born Kai Khosrow. Kai Khosrow will rule the world. That is literal. And the world implies both Iran and Turan. That is the world. And so this is something we've learned of in different narratives. If you know the story of Moses, if you know the story of Sargon of Akkad, if you know the story of Cyrus the Great himself, they always ascend to live with the shepherds, to live with the peasants, to live with people very, very far away from the higher circles of society. And then over time, when they grow up, they finally realize that they were destined to something bigger than that. Is this recycling? Absolutely. This is ancient literature recycling, because Ferdowsi knew this legend, for sure he did, and then he thought it would be very fitting for sovereigns such as Kai Khosrow. Therefore he's recycling, and no, I know, Umberto, I know, if God was to show themselves somewhere, they could have done so to save Seabash, but no, the important part of Seabash was his simiente, was his kid. I am not going to go against God's plans, but yet, I find myself in the situation where I have things to say. I have thoughts. I have a strong opinions on this. I'm really happy that you do too. We can discuss this on Thursday if you want to. Anyhow, so yeah, this is an old story. This is a tale as old as time, because yes, the kid Kai Khosrow is sent with the shepherds. This is beautiful because I wanted to highlight this part because I wanted you to see how old narratives were still of relevance in this 11th century when the Shāh-nāmeh was written, and that these ancient legends of kings, of princes, of heroes were known to the general public. It was just that, in the folklore, in the common place where the Iranians created the, say it with me, self-defining narrative. It was the story of Cyrus. It was the story of Sargon. It was the story of, I don't know if that's Aquila. Now that you're here, that is beautiful. I'm going to switch for a moment, not because I don't think Aquila doesn't understand me, she does perfectly, but I'm faster in Spanish. Aquila, ¿tenemos algún relato en la antigüedad clásica que empiece con un niño siendo mandado a vivir con los pastores para que no se entere de que es rey / príncipe? I'm positive that we do. That certainly we must have something like that on Greco-Roman literature, but I don't know of it. That's the reason why I have friends that are experts. Romulus and Remus. I don't know, you tell me. I value your trust, Umberto, that you're asking me, but I have no idea. Edipo, really? Oh, so he did more than just, the things he did? Okay, so we have Edipo. Okay, fine. Yeah, I always forget you can understand me as well in Spanish, Umberto. You're so talented, aren't you? Anywho, I wanted to show that's why he doesn't know who his parents are. That makes perfect sense. Aha. Before you come to me, no, I haven't read Edipo. It never appealed to me. I don't like that. I just don't have a necessity of reading Edipo. But I read the Book of Kings 6 times. Start to finish, I mean. Zeus. Heracles también. Really? Oh my god. So see, we are taking recycling to just another level. I wanted to say this because these ancient formulas, these ancient narrative formulas still worked because the intention was not to create a believable tale. The Shāh-nāmeh was not a piece that was purposefully created as historical. No, remember, this is a product that was created to deliver a message. And in this case, what Ferdowsi wants you to know is that the kid, Kai Khosrow, was of noble birth and of royal blood from the beginning, from the very, very beginning. But he is going to be deceived for a couple of years as he is growing up. But he doesn't want you to believe it. He just, from this story, what Ferdowsi wants you to take and to learn is that Kai Khosrow is of noble blood, but he's going to be brought up by shepherds. That's it. There is no attempt on making the story believable, neither accurate. The intention of epic narrative is not that. It is delivering a message, because all of this is an archetype. It's a narrative archetype. I could be talking about this for centuries. I was going to say months, no, centuries, not even years. But I'm going to stop myself because we need to continue reading and to see what comes of this Caicos Row. Piran left the court in high spirits, giving thanks to God and praising the king. He travelled home, deep in thought. Once there, he summoned shepherds from the mountains and said, "Keep this boy as dearly as your own souls. Keep him safe from wind and dust, and see that he wants for nothing and never suffers." He gave them, the shepherds, many gifts and sent them a wet nurse with them, because remember, Caicos Row is a baby. By the time the boy was 7, here's like time skip. Like, well, come on, vamos que nos tostamos. Like, yeah, it's time skip moment. By the time the boy was 7 years old, his lineage began to show. He fashioned a bow from a branch and strung it with gut. Then he made a featherless arrow and went off to the plains to hunt. When he was 10, he was a fierce fighter and confronted bears, wild boars, and wolves. What were you doing when you were 10? Oh no, I was playing with Barbies and Playmobil, for sure. What were you doing? I was killing a bear with my own hands. Dude, growing up in Iran must be very difficult. It's like Luke Skywalker. How? Did Luke Skywalker kill a bear with just 10 years of age? Did he? By now, he would take no orders from the shepherds who looked after him, and so his guardian descended from the mountains and went whining to Piran. And he said, "I've come to complain to your lordship about our young hero. At first he hunted deer and didn't look for lions or leopards, but now it makes no difference to him whether he's after a lion or a deer. God forbid any harm should come to him. I'm yours to command, my lord." And Piran laughed and said, "Lineage and skill won't stay hidden long. Basically, the kid is a force of nature that cannot be tamed." Like the Miley Cyrus song, Caicos Row cannot be tamed. And the shepherds they are not trying. They're not attempting to just ease the boy. No, they're just like, "My lord, this is the kid. We don't know what to do with him anymore." Piran rode to where the young lion was living. The young lion is Caicos Row, and ordered him to step forward. Seeing the boy's noble stature, he dismounted and kissed his hand. Then he gazed at him, taking in the signs of kingly glory in his face, because, oh, surprise, surprise, Caicos Row is also blessed by the fur. Of course he is. Remember, I'm going to be very repetitive, but it is important. He is Caicos Row, who will rule the world. The eyes of Piran brimmed with tears and love filled his heart. He folded the boy in his arms and held him there for a long time, brooding in his heart on the boy's fate. This is beautiful. We don't get many... How do I want to say it? We don't get many explicit physical love gestures, meaning that sometimes couples kiss, but very rarely fathers and sons have these kind of moments, and they rarely hug in the Shāh-nāmeh. Not because they didn't back in the time, of course they did, but because the poem, again, has a lot to share and to tell. And that's why these verses are so important to me, because Ferdowsi is purposefully leaving a space for tenderness and love in the shape of a hug, because Piran is just hugging a child. And he said, "O Khosrow, follower of the pure faith, may the face of the earth be bright for you." And Khosrow replied, he's 10, he's just 10, but he replied, "My lord, everyone speaks well of your kindness, and I see you're not ashamed to embrace a shepherd's son." And Piran's heart was wrung at these words. He blushed and said, "My boy, You call to mind our ancient heroes. The world is yours by right, and you are deprived of it. No shepherd is kin of you, and I could tell you much more about this. He called for a horse and royal clothes for the young man, and as the two rode together back to Piran's castle, Piran grieved in his heart for Şāh-nāmeh. He kept the boy by him and brought him up, but though he delighted in his company, he feared for him because of Afrasiab, and his anxiety gave him no rest, and so the heavens turned for a few more years, and Afrasiab's heart grew milder. One night a messenger arrived summoning Piran to the king's presence. When he arrived to Afrasiab, he said to him, Afrasiab said to Piran, "Every night my heart is filled with thoughts of evil and sorrow. I think of that child of Şāh-nāmeh, and it's as if he has darkened all my days. How can it be right for a shepherd to bring up a descendant of Fereydun?" Well, you order this, so make up your mind. "It is fated that evil will come to me from him. My precautions won't change God's will. If he can forget about the past, let him live happily, and I will too. And if he shows any signs of evil, then he will lose his head, as his father did." Yeah, thank God the king's heart grew milder. Dude. This kid has done nothing yet because he's just been about his own businesses, and you're already threatening to cut his head off. You need to go touch some grass, Afrasiab, because this is too much. First you wanted to kill a pregnant woman, and now you want to behead a child? Come on. He is a psycho. Piran replied, "My lord, you need no counselor to advise you. What does a little child who's ignorant of the world know about the past? Don't trouble yourself about this matter anymore. What's that saying? The teacher's stronger than the father, and the mother's love counts most of all. Now, for my sake, swear me an oath as solemn as those sworn by the ancient kings, that you won't harm the boy." Afrasiab's granite heart softened at Piran's word. Once again, Piran has done it. And he swore a solemn royal oath. "By day's bright splendor, by the dark blue night, by God who made the earth and heaven's light, who made earth's beasts and human souls, I say, I shall not harm this child in any way." Piran then kissed the ground, taking in the oath, and said, "Just king, without peer or equal on the earth and in the heavens, may wisdom always guide you, may time and space be as the dust beneath your feet." Piran hurried back to Kai Khosrow, and his cheeks glowed with happiness. He said to Khosrow, "Drive wisdom from your heart. If the king talks about battles, answer with banquets. Appear before him like a fool, like a proper idiot. Talk as an idiot talks. If you can keep clear of sense, you will get through today, trust me." And then he placed a Khayanit crown on his head and buckled the Khayanit belt about his waist. Why is he doing that? I don't know. He seems like Piran wants to provoke Afrasiab or something. But he had him mounted on a high stepping horse, and the two came to Afrasiab's court while crowds gathered to gaze with tears in their eyes, and heralds called before them, "Clear the way, a new prince approaches." The thing is that the king wants to see Kai Khosrow, but if he shows his true nature, if Kai Khosrow shows how sharp and cunning he is, Afrasiab is going to have reasons for wanting him dead. And so Piran tells Kai Khosrow to just play dumb, absolutely dumb. And when they reached the court, the grandfather's face was wet with tears of shame. Yes, because this is his grandson. Have I mentioned that? Then he stared at his grandson, saying words of friendship but revolving evil in his mind. He gazed for a while at the youth's stature and splendor, and as he looked, his face turned pale. Why? Because just as his father, Kai Khosrow is magnificent to contemplate. Watching him, Piran began to tremble and despaired of Khosrow's life. The king's face seemed closed and forbidding, but then kindness entered his heart. He said, "Young man, you are new to the court. Tell me, what do you know about a shepherd's life? What do you do with your sheep? How do you lead them to the pasture?" And Khosrow answered, "There's no hunting. I have no bow or bowstring or arrows." Which is something quite amusing to me to read, because I can imagine Piran giving Khosrow a pep talk just before they enter the court. And like, listen, do not let the king learn about your activities. What you do is not that okay. So please keep those away from it. Do not give any like signs that you actually professionally hunt. And he's like, "So tell me, boy, how is your daily life?" "I also definitely doesn't involve hunting. I don't know nothing about hunting. Do you?" Then Afrasiab asked him about his teachers and the good and evil fortune he had seen. Khosrow answered, "Where there's the leopard, the heart of sharp cloud." Well, that's a difficult word for me. "Where there's a leopard, the heart of sharp-clawed men burst with fear." Thirdly, the king asked him about his mother and father, about Iran, about his food, about where he slept. And Khosrow answered, "A fierce dog can't bring down a ravening lion." The king laughed at his replies and turned to Piran, saying, "His mind's awry. I ask him about the head and he answers about the feet. No good or evil is going to come from him. Men intent on revenge don't behave like this. The kid's an idiot. Go, hand him over to his mother and set someone trustworthy to look after them. Let them go to Sevosgurd. Keep bad counselors away from him, but give him whatever he needs in the way of money, horses, slaves, and so forth. Because of course Afrasiab has fallen for it. I can't speak. Afrasiab has fallen for it. He truly believes Kai Khosrow to be just imbecile. There's no word to describe it. And, thank you, Morais, for that subscription. 25 months. That is really something. Thank you for your support. And, hurrying a little, Piran hustled Kai Khosrow from Afrasiab's presence. I can really imagine saying, "Oh, thank you, my king. You're so wise and notorious. Thank you. But we're just going. Then that we like go, kids." Just pushing him to the door. And you're like, "Leave now." They reached home safely, with Piran well pleased by what had happened and convinced that the evil eye was sealed. He said, "God's justice has bestowed a new tree on the world, and now it gives its fruits." He opened wide the doors of his ancient treasury and equipped the prince with all he needed: silks, swords, jewels, horses, armor, crowns, belts, thrones, purses of coins, carpets and cloth, and everything else he might require. Then he sent Farigis. What do you say, Sohrab? Ardashir, the founder of the Sasanian dynasty, was a son of Sasan, a shepherd and nephew of Babak. It is said by Nelson Frey that Sasan was from that family. Oh, I haven't read that, but if you can find the source by Nelson Frey, definitely put that on Discord, because I want to read that. That seems interesting. Then Piran sent Farigis and Kai Khosrow to Sevosgurd, which had become a wilderness of thorns. Even the beasts of the field came to pay homage to them, and men gathered from every quarter and bowed before them, saying, "From the noble tree's uprooted stock, a new shoot has sprung. May the evil eye be far from our universal Lord. May Seavash's soul be filled with light." The ground of the ruined city revived, and the weeds turned to tall cypresses, which is such a magical moment to contemplate. From the place where Seavash's blood had been spilled, a green tree sprang up. On its leaves, the prince's face could be seen, and its scent was like the scent of musk. It flourished in the winter's cold, especially in spring. And it became the place where those who mourned for Seavash gathered together. This crone will see her infant suck and play, and while he sucks, she'll snatch her breast away. Such is the world to which our hearts are bound, before we're hurried, Pelma underground. If fortune raises one above the skies, fortune will cast him down before he dies. Turn from this world's inconstant vanity, and put your trust in God's eternity. And with these verses, we put an end to Seavash's narrative arc. And we've finished. Thank you for accompanying me in today's session. In Spanish, I read a summary because I mentioned this before, but this edition that I'm reading of the Shāh-nāmeh is not complete. It is made by Dick Davis and has some parts that are not translated. One of them is the upbringing of Kai Khosrow and how Kai Khosrow makes it to Iran. I read that in Spanish, but actually I was looking then in some other online places, and I am going to read these parts for you, because if this is to be an online reading of the Shāh-nāmeh, we are reading everything. Of course we are. So what I will do is I would read from the Zoroastrianheritage.com website where all the Book of Kings is translated, and we'll cover that part then. So I'm not going to tell you what happens. I did in Spanish, but I don't think any of you remember. So that is fantastic. Thank you, Mert. I'm really happy you enjoyed it, quote unquote. I wanted to finish with the birth of Kai Khosrow because that naturally closes the narrative arc of Seavash with the return of the kids to Seavash Gerd, and more importantly with the sprouting of the green tree. Before, Sohrab was saying that there's multiple flowers in Iran that are red that are called Seavash's blood, and it's true. It's true that Seavash has a powerful connection with botanics, interestingly enough. And what truly closes the arc is this new tree coming into the world, because you may have noticed how the Shāh-nāmeh powerfully uses trees as a metaphor for multiple things. One day I have to do a live stream on just trees and the Book of Kings, because trust me, it's super interesting, and that could lead us to do a live stream on trees and Iranian literature and Iranian folklore. But that is everything I have for you today. But yeah, thank you for accompanying me once more in this reading of the Book of Kings. It has, I would say it has been my pleasure, but it has definitely not been my pleasure, because this is painful every single time for me to read. Yet we did it. We said goodbye to one of the best characters in the entire book. And I'm really happy that you sat here and took your time to share the moment with me. I'm really happy I didn't cry. Definitely there was, it was a bumpy road. It was difficult, but I made it. I'm proud of myself. And yeah, thank you so much for accompanying me. Thank you so much for all the love you always show to these streams, the most important ones on the project, I want to say. What is that, Sohrab? We are listening to a book which won paper of what saw $1 million some years ago. Yeah, definitely. I mean, pages of the Shāh-nāmeh reached ridiculous amounts of... Oh, what is that? Apparat.com. Apparat. In cheer, Sohrab. Oh, I see. It's a cartoon you mentioned before, innit? What is it about? داستان‌های شاهنامه. مرگ Seavash. Yeah, the story of the death of Seavash. Yeah, cartoon. کارتون درباره یه سیاوش مرغ یه سیاوش میدونم خیلی ممنون سهراب. I will share this on Discord because maybe some people want to watch it. And also if you want سیاوش رو مرسی خیلی ممنون دوستم. Also if you want to join our Discord server, feel free to come. We are very nice people. And because as you know, I have this policy in which I am just quitting all social media because I don't like them anymore. I mean, I never did, but I had this, sentiment that I should have social media, which is absurd. I know it is very, very stupid because I shan't have something just because everyone else has it. And I am very comfortable just at my Discord server, on my Telegram channel, and most importantly at my Patreon page. Or here on Twitch, which is where I do my activities. So if you want to join any of the places, you can just go click on the links and you can find me over there. And if not, if you want to drop me a message, there's always the good old-fashioned but trustworthy email. Do people still send emails? I certainly do. But Bacha, thank you so much for your company. I hope you have a very, very, very rest of your week. And I have an announcement to make. Yes, I'm going to say Avash's mountain until the time to rule the world comes. Captain, you're the best. I have an announcement. Humberto Azizam, ¿estás aquí? Are you here? Because on Thursday is Shāh-nāmeh Yalda. We are celebrating Yalda, and I'm not doing this alone. For the first time in the history of this Twitch channel, I'm going to have a guest. And I'm going to have over Humberto from the marvelous podcast So You Think You Can't Rule Persia. And we are going, I know everyone's a fan of Humberto. I am the biggest fan. I'm such a big nerd of Humberto's nerdiness and Seria's marvelous drawings and reactions. So we're going to, yes, Serapis is possibly the biggest fan of Shāh-nāmeh Yalda because he really likes the Foleha face. And Humberto, I believe, has never had a Foleha face. So Serapis, we will show him on Thursday. It's so fun. You're going to love this, Humberto. So meet us on Thursday at 6 p.m. UTC +1 here on this very Twitch channel. You can find the invite on Telegram and Discord, and we just be here celebrating Yalda, and I will be telling Humberto things about Yalda and what it represents in a very light-hearted way. It's just gonna be just going to be us, enjoying and coming together for the most special night of the whole year, which is the darkest one. And I am very, very happy for that. Thank you, Humberto, for wanting to share Shāh-nāmeh Yalda with me. It's a big pleasure. Anyway, I've taken enough of your time, so I shall depart now. Thank you, Bacha, for joining me. In the meantime, just don't forget to create, to explore, and to have tons of fun. And until we see each other next time, I bid you Khodafis.